First of all, sir, just give us your reaction to the devastating events of the weekend so far.
It's very regrettable, tragic, the loss of life, and regrettable primarily because we have failed to provide an alternative political avenue, path. We have failed together, all of us, the international community primarily, to give people hope and aspiration. This is a wake-up call for all of us that we need to do actually provide such an alternative path. Palestinian people have been subjected to oppression and brutality for 100 years. This is about time that we look at the root causes. This is about time to adopt wisdom and statesmanship. This is not a time for vengeance, and we are very alarmed and concerned that with such an Israeli government, the most fanatical, Netanyahu, Ben-Gvir, Smotrich, the key motivator will be revenge. And revenge on who? On Palestinian civilians, as you may have been following in the last few hours, bombarding residential compounds and entire areas, entire families being wiped out. These are war crimes. This is not the solution. The real solution is to adopt and uphold international law. Israel, as an occupying power, has full responsibility to protect civilians under its own occupation.
Sir, you're talking about some very longer-term issues about the failures of politics, of the region, of the larger players in the region as well. But I just want to give you this opportunity to criticize the actions of these Hamas terrorists over the weekend as well. Surely, despite whatever you're saying about the longer-term picture and the dynamics of the region as well, this is a moment to criticize what Hamas has done now. I give you that opportunity, sir.
This is about a moment to criticize what has led us here, because this will be repeated again and again by you know,
sir,
we have seen this.
So can I give you the opportunity once again to criticize the actions of Hamas? You say this isn't the moment for vengeance. We're talking about hundreds, possibly more people have been murdered by their actions. We're talking about thousands injured and in hospital by these actions of the last 24 hours, 48 hours as well, and hundreds have potentially been kidnapped, sir. I give you the opportunity to criticize the actions of Hamas over the weekend, sir.
You are not giving me any opportunity, and you seem to have preset sort of questions. Listen, you started by saying we are the legitimate representative of the Palestinian people, the PLO, the Palestinian government, leadership. Hamas is just a militant group. We represent the Palestinian people. You want our position? Here's our position. 30 years ago, we have given an alternative path to all this. We have recognized Israel. We have committed to negotiations and nonviolence. And we have committed an iron way to international law and resolutions until this very moment, as you're speaking to me. And Israel was supposed to do one thing: roll back its occupation and stop its colonial settlement expansion. Not one government in Israel for 30 years, not one day Israel has done so. And the international community, the UN-led international community, was supposed to enforce these agreements we signed to bring an end to the conflict. So therefore, our position is very clear. Instead of just being and wasting this precious time talking about the consequences, we should talk about the root causes. And I am here to talk about the root causes. Do not underestimate people's desire for freedom. This isn't about Hamas. This isn't about the last 48 hours. This is about 100 years of complete denial, neglect, dehumanization of the Palestinian people.
Sir?
And this is an opportunity, Stephen, this is an opportunity for all of us to wake up, to be brave, and to really call a spade a spade.
Sir, I've given you a full opportunity to make your answer, and I hope you notice I didn't interrupt you there, sir, and I do not have prescribed questions that I have an agenda here. I'm giving you the opportunity, and you've given everything you've already said. I want to give you a third opportunity, sir, to criticise the actions of terrorists in the last 48 to 72 hours. I hear what you're saying about the longer-term picture. There are a lot of dynamics at work here. There are a lot of players from Iran to Saudi to United States to other international players who need to look at the situation and how we've got here as well. But I'm giving you the opportunity for a third time, sir, to criticise the Hamas terrorists in the last 72 hours, sir.
Well, I have said what I've said, and I repeat it again, Stephen. Our position is very clear. We believe in peaceful, legal, political avenues. That's why we have gone to the UN. That's why we are reverting to International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice. This is our strategy. This is our approach. This is what we have been trying to avoid for all these years. So you're talking to the wrong person, Stephen. Criticizing what? Criticizing what? You just want to keep focusing on the react. Let's focus on the act. Let's get out of this dark tunnel, all of us. I am not here to, I don't know. You were surprised. I am surprised. But the only thing that we need to really focus on is what led us to this moment, especially in the US. Especially in the US. Are we lesser of a people, Stephen? Really? Are we subhumans? We don't deserve equal rights? Gaza has been blockaded for 16 years. 2 million people have been taken hostage. So do not reduce this to a Hamas group. Do not reduce us only to this moment. It's 100 years of Nakba and disposition and displacement and denial and racism and occupation and apartheid. Look at the Human Rights Watch, your own institution, the most renowned international human rights organization. Look at Amnesty International confirming, documenting that the Palestinian people are subjected to the crime against humanity of apartheid by Israel. So these are the questions that needs to be discussed by international media. No one wants to see blood. No one wants to see innocent people being hurt. No one, including myself, of course. But we are at the receiving end for all these years. Ambassador. And this is about time that we shout out for a solution, that we shout out for the equal implementation of international law, that we shout out for a fair, balanced U.S. and international intervention.
Ambassador, violence doesn't solve anything, and I want to ask you about what happens next, because there were hopes for some sort of three-way transformative deal between the United States, Israel and Saudi Arabia to bring peace to the region. Where does it leave that process now?
Well, ask Netanyahu that question, because Netanyahu has been saying for a long time now that the Palestinian issue is gone. The Palestinian people are gone. We have managed to bypass them. Now we have peace with the Emirates and Bahrain, as if there was war between Emirates and Israel or Bahrain and Israel. There was none. There was none. The issue is us. And Netanyahu and the Israeli successive governments want to keep us the biggest elephant in the room. Almost do not exist. And you've seen in the last so many years, no one is seriously talking about achieving any sort of peaceful conclusion and the Palestinian people attaining their rights. And therefore, this is your question, Karen, is the right question. Violence is not the solution. Of course, it's not the solution. We, the national movement, started armed struggle long before Hamas in the 60s. And we came to the conclusion that violence is not the solution. International legitimacy is the solution. That was our conclusion, and we have been sticking to this strategy. But guess what, Karen? Look what the U.S. has been doing since then. I was the Palestinian ambassador in Washington only 5-6 years ago when Trump was in office. What did Trump do? He shuttered down our mission and kicked me out, actually, because the U.S. administration no longer even believe in our peoplehood, in our right of self-determination to represent ourselves. And then, of course, he moved the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem against international law and UN Security Council resolutions, and he closed the historic U.S. Consulate General in Jerusalem. These are very symbolic moves to say that we do not deserve diplomatic representation. So this is the issue. And now you see the U.S. Up in arms, the U.S. administration almost feeding this whole rhetoric about the reaction of Israel instead of being the U.S. we want, the U.S. we expect, the U.S. that leads, the U.S. that has the wisdom and the vision, the U.S. that safeguards international resolutions and international law. The UN sits in New York, Karen. It doesn't sit anywhere else. No. And therefore, this is the moment when we think, how do we regulate international relations? Think of Ukraine. Think what is happening everywhere. Palestine should not be an exception. Israel should not be kept above the law. It has to be under the rule of law.
Ambassador, thank you very much for weighing in today. We know there are two sides to every story. Thank you very much for your time.